So, taking this kind of from the top, all right? I'm doing this on the fly because there are those of you who can just zip through this, and there are those of you that don't zip through things. I'm trying to, as much as possible, be able to work with everybody. Maybe that's not right. But the idea here is this is what we want to build. So what we have added so far has been a text view, some kind of an edit text, a text view, a text view, a button, a text view, a text view, a text view, and a text view. All right? And those particular strings that you see on there, I think they asked, fantastic. All right. But those particular things that we have on here, the words bill amount, the word percent, the word tip, the word total, the word 3460, this, the plus sign, etc. All that stuff was what you were putting in the string.xml file. All right, that's what you were asked to put in there. All right, and we didn't really talk at all about layouts, so let's quickly talk about layouts. It says in Android development, a layout is a container that contains one or more child elements. In other words, it's the holder. You can call it the form, you can call it whatever you want. All right? And it says figure 3.2 shows the default layout of an activity, which defines a screen. All right, Android provides several different types of layouts. Chapter 5, they talk more about the layouts, okay? So it says, once you've opened a layout, you can view it in the graphical layout editor. You know that already. That's what you were doing. So in other words, we had this. All right, you got something that looked like that by default. Now, I want to go back to your question before, Valerie. When you look here, this is the way it used to be. All right, in other words, it would show you everything over here. They were broken up into areas. All right. And one of these areas that was in here, I don't know if it was which one it was, but one of them said edit text on it. It was in there, all right? But it appears though it's not there anymore. Did not know that. We'll work around it. We'll get it to work. I'm not worried about that. How to add widgets to a layout? Well, that should make sense to you, that basically it's just a matter of dragging the stuff out there, all right? Now, it's always, you look at this and you go, well, mine didn't look like that. And I get it. All right? Don't worry about it. It will. Okay? But again, there are 10 controls on this particular, 10 widgets, whatever you want to call it, on this particular thing. We've got in row 0 a text view and an edit text. In row 2, 2 text views and 2 buttons. All right, in row 1. In row 2, 2 text views. In row 2, 2 text views. All right, so you put those in, and then the idea was you would change the text that was in there so it would look like this. All right, now, did my emulator come up? There's mine. So you can see what I did. It's sure as heck isn't perfect. I've got to move the buttons around. I've got to remember how to make them smaller. I don't care right now. But the point is, everything is there. It doesn't look at all perfect. But you can see that right now it is looking the way I want it to look. I'm still going to have to tweak it. All right? I did nothing special to get all this stuff looking the way it looks. And like I said, these don't perfectly line up. You got spoiled. Whether you realize it or not, you all got spoiled by using Visual Studio. Because I think it's much easier to work with than this editor is. You may or may not agree with that as we go on. All right? All right. How do you set a property for a widget? You already know how to do that. I asked you to remove the text property for each one of those widgets. All right? And reset it. Now, if it's easier for you, if you look on the screen here, maybe it would have been easier for me to tell you, hey, don't paint your interface. Put this control on there. Just that control, nothing else. Then, after you do that, go into your attributes and rename it. Then, go to the text, remove that, go to your, go and add a new string resource, which would add it to your strings.xml file. Now you got one control in there. Do that 9 more times. I thought it would be easier for you to do it this way. Maybe I was wrong. What happens is over time, you'll figure out your own best way of doing things. All right? And that's what you should do. And again, this is an older book. All right? And if you're mad, and maybe you are, nobody has said anything, but if you think, you know what, we really should have bought this damn book and the new, etc., yeah, okay. Then when you do your course evaluations, write that down. All right? This isn't a super expensive book. It's about $55. But even my book is outdated because my book is like 2015. 2016. I don't know what it is. Then next, you were supposed to come in there and add the strings. All right? Then now notice if you look right here, this is wide. Everybody, if you just take a quick look up on the screen, see where it says the location of a strings.xml file for France? There are certain country codes. I don't remember how many of them there are. You can go look it up under developer.android.com. But if let's say I wanted to have this app run in France, I would go in there and I'd have to know French, but I could set it up for French. I could set it up for Spanish. I could set it up for whatever. All right? And notice it says the difference, it says values -FR. All these countries that are supported have a code. I believe that Spain is ESP for España. All right? And there are a bunch of other ones. So again, as I told you, you would come out there and you would come in here, and I can just Google it here. Android country codes. Locale, Android developer. I don't know if this is it or not. So it's got US here, it's got French, it's got Caribbean. Somewhere, if you look long enough, either in here or someplace else, they will have a listing of all the country codes. I sure as heck wouldn't expect, when you're creating your own app, I wouldn't expect you to do that. But let's say that Amin creates the Amin app, and it really is that good, and he thinks, you know what, I think I could sell this worldwide. That's one of the things he'd want to look at doing then. All right? But heck, we're just learning this stuff, and we don't have that many days to spend on it anyway. So this is just like an extra. You don't have to worry about that. All right. Now, there's 2 ways that you can set properties. If you look on the screen here, unless you think you know it all, please look on the screen. I can either come in here and click on something to highlight it and go into the properties window, or I can go into the XML. You can do it either way. There is no difference. When you change one, the other one changes. Again, if you are somebody who are like, no, I've got to be visual, I've got to see this in front of me, then you should do it this way. If you're not a visual person, all right, if you're more textual, then you should do it the other way. Now, here are some of the properties. The good news is, when you start to look at these properties, some of these, you know what they are already. You know what margin is. You know what padding is. It's the same stuff as what we talked about with margin and padding back in the days of CSS. All right, that stuff hasn't changed. Some of the common properties, we're going to run through these as we get in here. Now, this has changed. See this? Wrap, content, match, parent, fill. They don't have those names anymore. All right? You may or may not have noticed that. So again, if you're confused, you go back to developer.android.com. All right? And you put in something like predefined values for setting height and width. All right? So again, if I go back here where we just were, and I back up a little bit, there's a search in here someplace, and I'm going to type in predefined values for height and width. All right, and they'll have it. I might have, it says no results. It's in here someplace. There's PX, etc. All right, but if I know, for example, well, there's something in there. I know there's something in there that's called match parent. All right, then I'm going to type in match parent, and I'm going to look for it that way. All right, notice there's rename fill parent, rename match parent. So I can look under the layout parameters and start looking through there. All right. All right, so finally starting on around page 106 is the XML. Now, if you didn't listen to anything else I said today, please listen to this. Right now, if you look at your project and you go into your XML file, it looks like this. All right? I've started making changes already. I've started making changes. Okay? But if you're like, I wish it really lined up. I wish everything looked nice like it does in the book, etc. Then what you can do, all right, is come in here to this file. If you want, I'll be more than happy to print out copies. I don't care. It's 3 pages long. But if you made yours look just like this, then yours should look just like the one that's in the book. Does that make sense? It won't be functional yet because we have to put the code in for the buttons. All right? So there's a few things that we'll have to do. We'll do that stuff tomorrow. Now, is there anybody who wants a hard copy of that? No? Okay. Because you can do it yourselves too. There's a lot of ways you can do it. You can shrink this down, shrink this way down, etc. Do whatever you want to do. Right? But the idea behind this was to give you a working product, have you replicate the working product so you could see some of the steps developers go through. All right? And I hope you're all, and I think you are all smart enough to realize this, that let's suppose, and I used this example yesterday, that Ethan decides, because I know he's got an affinity for guitars, he's going to do something with guitars. I don't care what it is, but he's going to make some kind of an app for guitars. The chances are pretty good he's not going to sit down in one day, create his interface, write his code, and have it working. That makes sense? That's why I'm going to give you about the last 4 to 6 weeks to plan it out. You should really draw it out on a piece of paper. You should figure out, do I want this to be one activity, in other words, one form, or multiple forms? So let's say Amin's going to do a game. He might have some kind of an opening screen, and then you might click a button and go to another screen. He might have different levels or whatever. The only thing I will tell you is when you start working on your actual project, don't try to solve the world. I've had this happen before. Somebody says, I'm going to do this. And it's like you're holding up a box that's 500 pounds. And you end up, when you get done, holding up a box that's 5 pounds. Because you put all your heart and soul into it, and then you just can't get stuff to work. And I will be able to help you somewhat when you get to that point. But if you're doing an app and it's on something that you like, and I don't know anything about it, I'm probably not going to be able to help you very much. All right? I mean, this is 4th semester, and the idea is this is supposed to be you doing your last project. All right? So tomorrow what we'll do, again, that's the XML. Then they talk about how to write the Java code. So that's where I'm going to pick it up tomorrow, is right there under the actual code. All right? So like I said, it's about 3:15. I'm going to write up some kind of a spec sheet for you working on that fortune teller thing. I would like you to type this one in. And to me, if you say to me, we have to turn this one in, if it makes you type it in, then yes. I want you to start doing this, and I want you to make mistakes, because that's how you're going to learn how to do it. You can all do this stuff, and you're going to do it in different ways. Ethan might do everything graphically. Evan might say, I'd rather just write the XML. There's no difference. All All right. The end product will be the same. So we'll pick it up tomorrow then on this page 110, how to work with an activity. All right. And I'm going to write up some kind of, right now, while you're working on whatever, I'm going to write up some kind of assignment sheet. All right.